What's up, everybody? This is Mario, and I'm back with another episode of Endurify. And this morning, I was thinking about what should I talk about today? What should I podcast about? And so I was just kind of checking out some of my different blogs that I read, and one of them is called Zen Habits. And Zen Habits is a blog by Leo Babauta. And if you don't know Leo, he's an author, he's a journalist, and he's like the blogger behind zenhabits.net, which was actually voted one of the top 25 blogs of 2009 and 2010. And he gets millions of readers reading his articles and reading his blogs, and he offers ebooks and courses and a lot of really good content for people who are looking to achieve goals, meaningful goals, but also just live a more simple life. And his most recent blog post caught my attention because it was called The Challenge of Doing Hard Challenges. And if you know anything about Endurify, you know it's all about becoming the best version of yourself through endurance challenges. And that definitely caught my attention. And so I want to walk through his blog post and some of the takeaways and what it might mean for you. And so he's currently doing a 40-day discomfort challenge as a training to kind of fall in love with discomfort and uncertainty. And he says that he's been doing this for 10 to 15 years, where he sets these mini goals and these mini challenges that really force him to grow. And like I said, it forces him to kind of fall in love with discomfort and uncertainty. And his current challenge that he's doing is he's jumping into a cold pool every morning and logging his results each day. And the pool is like 50 degrees or colder. And if you've ever gotten into the pool at that temperature, it is like very uncomfortable, extremely painful. But it's one of those things where you kind of force yourself to do it and get through it, and you can become better. And in the blog post, he talks about how somebody reached out to him and said, like, well, what are you trying to prove and who are you trying to prove it to? And his answer I thought was really good. And he's trying to prove that difficulty, discomfort, uncertainty, resistance, and fear are nothing to fear, and that we don't have to run from things because they are hard or scary or because we feel resistance. And he said that he's trying to prove that we can fall in love with discomfort and challenge, bring play and curiosity in the middle of uncertainty and fear, and find joy in the middle of chaos and groundlessness. And he's really just trying to prove it to himself and prove it to his audience, kind of in service of doing something meaningful in the world. And I think that really resonated with me, and it resonates for you and us because, you know, as people who are training for endurance events like Ironmans, half Ironmans, triathlons, marathons, etc., there's going to be discomfort and uncertainty. And you need to train your mind and train your body to get through that discomfort and through that uncertainty. And that's something that I talked about in previous episodes about, you know, kind of 5 ways to leave your comfort zone and how to get better at suffering and how to become tougher. And he's really doing this for a lot of those same reasons. And in the blog post, he then goes on and shares 7 reasons why hard challenges are incredible. So you basically flip it on its head. When somebody thinks of a hard challenge, you just think about all of the reasons why you don't want to do it, or you might think about how, you know, it's scary, or you might think about how you want to avoid that thing. But by phrasing it as 7 reasons why hard challenges are incredible, that, you know, changes your perspective on it, and it forces you to think about what are all of the benefits that I might get from taking on this challenge. And I wanted to share that. So the first one is that the first reason why hard challenges are incredible, according to Leo, is that it teaches us that we can adapt to discomfort. And it's, you know, it's kind of like if you were to try something for the first time, it may feel uncomfortable and you're going to feel that discomfort, but your body adapts and your training adapts, and eventually it could become something that you enjoy. The next one is it shows us the beauty of uncertainty and not knowing. I think in the world that we live in with Google, with smartphones, with everything, you can literally find an answer to every question that you have. And it gives us this false sense of control that I have to know everything before I take action. But by doing these challenges, the 40-day challenges, or by doing a half Ironman or an Ironman, you're taking on something that you've never done before. And sometimes there aren't answers. And that's a really good training and a really good lesson to learn. So the third one is that it helps us find growth in failure and loss. So it helps us find growth in failure and loss. And one of my favorite quotes that my dad taught me, it is all about football. My dad's a football coach, and he talks about how football is a lot like life in that it's all about how do you handle success, which is with humility, and how do you handle failure, which is by owning that and trying to improve and ultimately growing from that. And that's exactly what Leo is saying with helping us find growth in failure and loss. Because if you commit to something, a 40-day challenge or a bigger challenge than that, I can guarantee there are going to be days where you might fail and you might not do as well as you would have liked. But this is where it's really important to understand that people are not failures. It's just actions and plans that fail. And you can kind of use that as a piece of data to help you to improve and to learn and to grow. The next reason why hard challenges are incredible is it helps prove that we have the courage to do what we fear. And this is something that I've actually talked about with the Brave Athlete, where courage and kind of bravery, a lot of times, and I actually thought this too, where it's you take action, where you kind of have this false belief that courageous people don't experience fear and they don't have that fear in the back of their mind. But really what courage and what bravery is it's taking action despite that fear. So it's, yes, I'm training for this half Ironman. I might not finish. I do feel a little bit of fear towards that, but I'm going to put the work in and I'm going to show up on race day and I'm going to do it anyways. And by doing that consistently, that's where confidence comes from. It's from taking action despite that fear. And eventually you realize that fear was just completely made up. So that's a really important one. So the next one that he talks about is it gives ourselves evidence of our resilience, our grit, our determination, and our commitment. So like my take on this is if you sign up for a race and you train for months and months and months, and then you eventually complete it, there is no better evidence for, you being able to persevere than looking back on your training and knowing that you overcame all of these obstacles and knowing that you can do it and you can be successful despite the obstacles that get in your way. So I remember one of my first half Ironman, it was a horrible race. It was like 95 degrees. My family was there. I was forced to walk in front of my family. And I didn't handle my nutrition well and I was puking and I puked like 3 or 4 times, but I kept pushing through because I wanted that feeling of crossing the finish line. And I visualized holding my bike over my head and I finished the race. And to this day, I still wear the shirt that I got for completing that race. And I have I got a hoodie as well. And the hoodie says, "Find a way." And that was like just the perfect signal and symbol for me that no matter what happens, I can find a way to get through it. And then the other thing is the t-shirt. I was literally wearing this t-shirt yesterday. This is from the race from 5 years ago, but it says, Warrior Triathlete Finisher. Warrior Triathlete Finisher, like constantly in the front of the shirt. And that's because the name of the race was the Warrior Border Wars or something like that. It's a non-Ironman sanctioned half Ironman, but just that mantra of like Warrior Triathlete Finisher, that's something that, I am a finisher. I finish what I start, even if it's hard. So that's kind of my take on that one. But it gives us that evidence of that resilience and that grit and that determination and that commitment. And to me, that evidence comes from that shirt and that hoodie and knowing that I did it anyways. And then another reason is it helps us to grow in new and unexpected ways. So when you think about taking on a challenge, it once you get through it and once you demonstrate that resilience, grit, determination, and commitment, you honestly find yourself growing and wanting to take on more challenges. You might find yourself wanting to take on more difficult challenges, and even in ways that you wouldn't expect. So for me, I never really expected to start a podcast or to want to create training plans and coach other people. It just kind of happened after going through this process and understanding how transformative it can really be. And that wasn't something that I sought out to do from the beginning, but after going through these challenges and learning and growing and stretching myself and becoming, a better version of myself, I want that for other people. So that's just a signal and a symbol, again, of kind of growth in new and unexpected ways. And then the last way, according to Leo, is it shows us what our patterns are when we feel discomfort and uncertainty. So if we don't challenge ourselves to do hard things, it's almost impossible to see what our patterns are, except, of course, the avoidance of doing hard things. So it shows us what those patterns are for when we feel discomfort and uncertainty. So if you never take on hard challenges, you'll never be able to discover how do you react when you take on those hard challenges. Are these things that you just constantly shy away from? Are these things that you procrastinate on? Those are the types of patterns that might show up for you when you take on some of these challenges. So those were kind of the 7 reasons why hard challenges are incredible, according to Leo. And, I resonated with every single one of them. And I think that this is an important kind of lesson for all of us to hear. And I've really seen this show up for myself recently with the podcast. And as a few of you know, I just started this podcast and I have done 80 plus episodes in a row. And that's because I made a commitment to publishing every single day for 365 days. And at the beginning, I was scared. I was afraid of what would people say about me? What would my friends and family think? What would I talk about? What do I talk about today? What do I talk about tomorrow? What am I going to talk about next week? And I still kind of get a little nervous before pushing record each episode. But, I'm getting through it and I'm actually learning to really enjoy it. And I'm really loving the process. And it has helped me really grow by taking on this challenge. And it's given me that confidence. Even just doing, 5 podcasts in a row gave me the confidence that I could keep going. And like I mentioned, I just recorded my 80th podcast in a row. And after doing that, I went back to my first episode that I recorded. And this was actually back in July. But it was embarrassing listening to the first 30 seconds. My energy was low. I wasn't excited. And I only listened to the first 30 seconds of it because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hard to listen to. But it is kind of that symbol of my growth. It has given me evidence, like Leo was talking about, of my grit, of my courage, of my determination to go from where I was to where I am now, where I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to talk about this, and I want to share this with you. And that's just kind of one example of how I've seen some of these different reasons why the hard challenges are incredible, how I've seen those show up in my life. And that's really what I want for you. And the whole reason why I'm sharing this episode is because maybe this is something that you need to hear. And I don't know you, but I can guarantee that you have done something hard in your life. You have done maybe really hard things like running a marathon. Maybe it's you've given birth. Maybe it's you've raised kids. Maybe you have really hard projects that you've gotten through. Maybe it's your business that you have. Maybe it's you're getting through school and you're doing all of these different things. Maybe you're dealing with health issues or difficult relationship issues and so much more. And of all of these things, like a lot of these things that I'm talking about, these are the most meaningful things that we can do because they teach us so much and we grow and change so much in the process. So that's kind of my message for today. And it makes me want to ask you this question, which is, what's your next hard challenge that will serve as a place of growth for you? Right? So we've talked about what the main reasons are for taking on these hard challenges, but what's that next hard challenge for you? Maybe it's a half Ironman, maybe it's an Ironman, maybe it's a 5K or a 10K or something else, but I want to encourage you to take on that challenge. So that's what I have for you today. I hope that served you, and I hope you all have an amazing day.